Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, it didn't come wholly as a surprise, though a little bit of a surprise. The United States has announced that it will not return to the Open Skies Treaty. The Open Skies Treaty, signed in 1992, so it's been around for almost 30 years. It supposedly was supposed to create trust between the United States and Russia. They will allow overflights of one another's territory in order to look at the military movements and so on. And the Trump administration withdrew from the Open Skies Treaty, claiming that the Russians were cheating. The Russians, of course, denied that they were cheating. And then Russia also last year and early this year also announced that they intend to withdraw from the Open Skies Treaty. What I think was a little bit surprising is that the Biden administration had, during the election, indicated that they were open to returning to the Open Skies Treaty, just as during the campaign, they said that they wanted to renew the New START Treaty. They did renew the New START Treaty. So there was an expectation that they might return to the Open Skies Treaty. But no, they announced no, because Russia are cheating, they're liars, and we don't want to have anything more to do with it. Ultimately, it's not a huge significance. I mean, both countries have enormous number of satellites in the air. You know, they spy on one another, and you know, basically, sophisticated powers know how to hide whatever they want and need to hide. Nonetheless, it is a little surprising that within about it's 2 weeks, just a little more than 2 weeks before this much vaunted Putin-Biden summit, the United States should announce that they have no intention to returning to a treaty that is all about trust and verification and goodwill. So, you know, it is a good indication that the United States really isn't very serious about building any kind of a relationship of, what was it, the word stability and predictability that the Biden administration likes to use. All right, Peter, what's your take?
Well, I like you, I'm not surprised. I'm disappointed though, because you're absolutely right. Because of the state of technology, you can pretty much see, you know, what's written on a golf ball from space. Okay, I think you have been able to do that since the 70s.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I heard that what you just said since about the 90s, at least the 97, maybe even the 60s. I heard that particular line. So yeah.
And it was about trust.
Right.
You know, it was about trust, and that could have been an easy one, easy one to say, hey, we'll just go back to it. We both abide by it. And actually, it's much more beneficial to the U.S. Than it is to Russia, because Russia has to go all the way over the polar ice cap. But with American allies, they can do it for the United States. Right. And that's one of the reasons the Russians said, you know, hey, you know, this is not really fair, is that if you leave it, then you're going to have Poland do it. OK. And so, you know, this is because they'll share the information. Right, exactly. So it'd be really one-sided. Nonetheless, I think just for some kind of symmetry of trust, the Russians were willing to stick with it. So that's not going to happen. I'm beginning to think, George, with this announcement, is that the Biden-Blinken people may be just looking for damage control. They're going to draw a line and just say, we're not going to make it worse. Okay, we're not going to improve anything. Right. And there's no new chapter, there's no reset, there's no plastic button, there's nothing. Okay, just basically draw a line saying we're not going to let this deteriorate anymore, and leave it at that. Okay, and I think that includes also Ukraine. Fingers crossed. Okay, right. Fingers crossed. So I think that's what this indicates here, is just damage control, and they're going to focus elsewhere in the world. We made a video earlier today on China, and if the Biden people like it or not, they're going to be thinking and talking about China for a lot, due to the new reports of an alternative theory, probably the real theory of the origin of the pandemic here. But walking out of this treaty also tells us a lot about the bipartisan nature of American foreign policy, because they just don't like treaties. With the public, they're very popular, okay, because it shows a decreasing intentions and avoiding conflict here. But it looks like it's, you know, Boltonism has taken a deep root into the foreign policy class. If just remind viewers, John Bolton hated any treaties at all, any kind of bilateral agreements, because it would, ties America's hands. Okay, just the opposite. Treaties are good. Treaties it releases the pressure. And there's always somebody to call. There's pick up the phone.
Right.
And the way they're going, there's no one going to be there to pick up the phone.
No, I think that's right. I think treaties generally are very popular in the public. So during the great Detente era, when they were signing these big arms control agreements, they were all immensely popular. Now, of course, the Cold Warriors at the time, the neocons, these are the early neocons, are all against any of these. No, the Russians are cheating, the Russians are lying, and so on. But they never really proved their case that the Russians were cheating and Russians were lying. I mean, so they just kept, they got a lot of media attention, but they never really, managed to convince anyone that the Russians really were cheating and lying. And we're here talking about, let's say, the Russians, the USSR. So basically, USSR complied, with these obligations when it signed those treaties. This was, relatively speaking, if a minor arms control treaty. I mean, I think much more significant was the Trump administration's withdrawal from the INF Treaty, which again was bipartisan, and Biden has never given any indication that he has any interest of returning to the INF Treaty. So that's gone by the wayside. But this one was, there to create a certain measure of trust. I mean, as I said earlier, I don't think it was a hugely significant. I mean, if you want to hide something, you know how to hide it.
But the thing is that
it was generally part of the sort of good relationship.
And something to build upon, obviously, if you want to do that. Also, with INF, with open skies and things like that, the real issue is not really cheating. The problem is that technology is advancing, and so you have these agreements were agreed to at a certain level of technology, and we know that in our lifetime how technology is just grown exponentially. And what you need to do, instead of scrapping them, you need to reassess them. Are they up to date? Are they do they match the technical capacity that all sides have? That's a much more reasonable approach to doing it, and also, it shows a level of confidence that American planes are going to be flying over, and then the Americans say, they're going to be doing checking up. We check up on them. That's fair is fair. That's a kind of sense of building a consensus. And now we just have almost nothing. And with just they've prolonged. Extended the SALT, but are they in negotiations for a new treaty? I haven't heard anything about that. Okay, maybe.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. I mean, now presumably that may be one of the topics under discussion in Geneva on June the 16th. That they'll say, well, let's open new negotiations for some, for an extension of, or more an extension, or as you say, build something to build on for the New START treaty. Maybe they'll start it, but that takes a long time. Those things don't.
Takes a long time.
They take 3, 4, 5 years to negotiate such treaties.
And my sense is that any new incarnation of the START treaty is must include China, and the Russians are going to say, go talk to the Chinese then, okay? Right. Because the Russians are not going to get involved in that, okay, at all. And the Chinese have said, okay, I mean, we have like 600 warheads. Why don't you come down to our level? And and the Americans are going to say no to that, okay? They're agreement incapable, okay, and that's bipartisan.
Right. No, I think that's right. I mean, I think that it was. I mean, remember, the Trump administration had stipulated that as one of its conditions for renewing the New START treaty. That we have to include China. Russia said, we're not interested in that. So again, this was a cave by the Biden administration. They said, okay, well, you're not interested. You're not interested. We still want to sign this treaty. So I mean, I suspect that what's really going on here is that the United States feels that it's fallen behind on strategically to the Russians, and they need time to catch up. And therefore, it's not in their interest to have an arms race, because the Russians already are ahead. And it's not in their interest to have Russian planes flying by,
Well,
investigating, inspecting what they're doing. So I think that's why they've decided, no, we need a breathing space so that we can catch up with the Russians. And that's really what's behind this. Because remember, this is the first time ever starting from 1945 that the Russians actually got ahead of the Americans strategically. It was always the other way around. The Americans got ahead, and then the Russians caught up. Now suddenly Russia's ahead, and America feels very uncomfortable about this.
yeah, and also, unlike the Cold War, the quote unquote missile gap, which was never there. But I mean, and the Russian side has been very transparent about this. They will respond to the American strategic threat asymmetrically, and that's where they've got the edge right now. They've got a huge edge with their supersonic weaponry, and what it is that it is defensive, at least primarily. It's designed in a defensive manner, which really scrambles everything up on the American side, because that's not how they approach it. They approach it on symmetrical, numbers, delivery systems, and all of it. And the Russians will say, well, you can have, I guess, as many warheads as you want. We have the technology to take them out, okay? And this is, again, the technology has gotten way ahead of these things, and these agreements and treaties have to keep up with it if you want it. It's a choice.
Right. No, I think that's right. The INF Treaty, of course, is something that the Russians did value, because if you start putting, as they did back in the 1980s, when the Reagan administration and NATO decided that they were going to station intermediate range missiles in Europe, a few miles from the Soviet Union, that did cause a great deal of alarm in the USSR. I mean, the idea that they're just a few minutes away from Leningrad and Moscow, that was a huge deal. So it made a lot of sense to actually let's get rid of all of the intermediate range missiles, to create more stability. But in terms of now, I think this is minor stuff. Open Skies Treaty, as opposed to the INF Treaty. That was a really big deal when the Trump administration walked out, and this was absolutely, everyone agreed. NATO didn't protest. No one in the United States, and maybe Rand Paul, but no one else protested against this.
Yeah, but because walking away from the INF, walking away from the anti-ballistic missile treaty, which the Trump Bush administration in 2002. I mean, this shows it is a pattern. This is a pattern here, and it's a dismal pattern, and it should worry people. I mean, consider, you and I remember the Cold War, and the rhetoric was strong, the fear was there. And it took real courage to sit down and say, despite our differences, okay, we shouldn't be in that position right now, not at all, okay. And again, for me personally, it just, this is the death throes of exceptionalism. They cannot admit there are peers out there. Russia's a peer, China's a peer. India very soon, or if not already, is a peer in many ways. Okay, this is called history moving on. You can't freeze it.
No, I think that's right. I would have thought, because it's not such a big deal, that this
yeah, me too.
A freebie. Just do it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. We'll return to the Open Skies Treaty. I mean, no big deal here. Then, if you did it, no one would kick up such a fuss. But even this minimum, they haven't done, because this isn't even controversial. I mean, returning to the JCPOA is actually controversial in the United States, given the power of the Israel lobby. But this isn't really that controversial. I mean, but even this minimum, the Biden people are not prepared to give.
Well, I mean, does it get down to, and this is kind of rhetorical, it's because the Russians want it, we'll deny them. Is that the calculus? Wow, that's not Bismarckian. Okay, it's not Kissingerian.
All right, Peter, we will maintain our laser-like focus on this topic too. We are on Locals. Please look us up on Locals. Please support us whatever extent you can. It helps us a great deal. And what is it? thegaggle.locals.com.
Locals.com.
Yeah, we're also on Rumble. Please look us up there. And if you like The Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.